The mic is not working, but this mic is working.
Yeah.
So we'll work with that.
I'm sorry.
And the theme actually came from Anthony Moscini, the idea of music, and I added all that jazz, and I think it's a good theme. Music and all that jazz, okay? And I'm also going to dedicate the reading to Martin Luther King Jr., whose holiday is today. So that's going to be part of the theme of this reading. The first poem is Monk, Thelonious Monk. Now, Thelonious performed here at the 5 Spot. I was lucky enough to hear him in 1958. His middle name was Sphere. Now, I don't know if that's true, but that's what he said. He was known for his very avant-garde performances on the piano, where the notes seemed a bit strange, and the space between the notes was as important as the notes themselves. Now, he was one of the first victims of stop and frisk, but actually stop and frisk goes back to the 19th century. But he was arrested on marijuana charges. Possibly the marijuana was planted on him. And he would have his cabaret license suspended for 6 months, a year, and so on. This was pretty tragic for a jazz musician. Monk, and this composition is made up of compositions of his, titles of compositions, and other jazz artists. Monk for Thelonious. July 1957, 5 Spot. Monk, Sphere, where you wandering? Stop, space between notes, jagged, slash, flash, but the space. Twisted elbow, black fruit swollen, Bemsha swing, black and tan fantasy, epistrophe, angling in space, right angle to zero, straight note chaser, I mean you. Little Rudy Tooty, trinkle tinkle little star, pirouetting brilliant corners in the crook of the stage. Well, you needn't, but you did. Spinning off minor, ozoned, antic, rhythming crisscross green chimneys, blue monk, only the cop could stop. Evidence, 4 in 1. Oh, monk, circle the spotlight, walk up the stairs, turn out the light, walk up the stars. The next poem is entitled Night on Bop Mountain. Now, in the 1950s, Chet Baker took a theme from Mussorgsky's Night on Bald Mountain and wrote a work called Night on Bop Mountain, and I took that as the title of this poem. And this also consists of works, compositions by Chet Baker, Charlie Mingus, Dizzy Gillespie, Hoagie Carmichael, Miles Davis, and Harry Belafonte and Billie Holiday. Night on Bop Mountain. Tonight at noon, you beep and bop on Bop Mountain under Peggy's green skylight, but bring salt peanuts, salt peanuts. Crazy as a loon, Looney Tune tonight on Bop Mountain. You bugaloo the Haitian fight song, slice and cut, blow a gasket, but bring salt peanuts, salt peanuts. Bemsha swing, you swing the tune, wailing night on Bop Mountain. Down, down to sand dune, banana boat, you going nuts. So bring salt peanuts, salt peanuts. You whirl past the moon, glowing rune, witch's Sabbath, swirl Bop Mountain. Sing of right, sing of wrong, so what, you say, but bring salt peanuts. Black fruit swollen, swollen moon, broken branch on Bop Mountain. Slash and clash, Haitian fight song, bloom and strut, but bring salt peanuts, salt peanuts. Now, this is another jazz poem, but it's written to Pina Bausch, the choreographer who died in 2009. And Wim Wenders made a beautiful film about her. There are images from her dances, and I take some of those images and put them in the poem. She lived in Wuppertal in Ruhr Valley in Germany, and she worked in a theater there. Her signature work is Café Mueller, written to work by Purcell. What is the name of the? Dido and Aeneas. And there's a certain aria that is sung. Dido's Lament. Okay. And there's a ballerina. There's a rhinoceros in this film, in her dance. And the rhino is a dying creature on our earth. I wonder why. Pina and the rhino. Pina, yeah, Pina Bausch, choreographer, Café Mueller in Wuppertal in Ruhr Valley. A rhinoceros got on the monorail, a rhino in Wuppertal. No one noticed. The rhino was playing a trumpet, wailing actually. Dido and Aeneas, Purcell, purr in the air, on the monorail. The prima ballerina, Natalia Bailova, veal, yes, veal, stuffed in her toe shoes, pirouetted, leaned over, kissed the rhino, yeah, kissed him or her on the ear, kissed the rhino tenderly. The rhino keeled over, died, yeah, died, kissed by Bailova on the monorail in Wuppertal. No one noticed. Now, I'm going to do two poems that I used to read in the old days, back in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. This is the first time I'm doing this. This is from the collection To Music, and the first one was written in 1982. It's called Too Much Vibrato. Ever since I can remember, too much vibrato. Lower your voice, modulate. Don't talk while you eat, masticate. Capricious jet string, sunspot, solar wind. You tilt the planet, too much vibrato. Take that finger out of your mouth. Don't eat the hedges, the sun. Don't show your vibrato. Swell in secret, stuff your mouth with straw, my little Orpheus. But one day, volcano, gale, quake, I will crescendo. Now, this was written in 1966 during the Vietnam War, which I saw as a calamity, and what's going on now in the Middle East is a continuation of that calamity. Now, just a little explanation. My brother was living in the Bronx with a fellow student named Charles Cudgel, and I went there and visited him. His name was Cudgel, a very unusual name, sounds like hammer. And we discussed classical music, conductors, the Vietnam War, and then I wrote him a letter, and that letter became this poem. It's called Request, W-R-E-C-K, Quest, Request. And I stumble over his name because I have trouble remembering it. Request. Dear Charles Cudgel, as I your name slipped over, dear Charles, lover of burly ozone, stratospheric symphony fantastique, a phosphorescence eclipsed by pragmalunic policy, hyperbiblic poetry, forgotten name and history, cudgel, cordial, not so cordial, quartidoscopic, dead Irving Berlioz, Thomas Paineful, Jeffersonian demagogue. Dear Charles, I ask you, what conductor, Clarion, Klemperer, or L.B. John Swolian, recommend you in the still of T4 testing fantastique symbiosis? What conductor in this age of forgotten phosphorescence, flagellated forest, fellatio incognito, forte, forte, in this phlogistonized atmospherius, what conductor, tell me please, what conductor, air, air, my kingdom, a conductor please? Now, this is entitled Burlesque. It was written during the terror alerts during the Bush administration. Now, it seems to be a poem about going to a burlesque show in New Jersey, but it's really an allegorical poem on seeing terrorists everywhere. The more we seem to kill, the more they die, the more they multiply. Burlesque. 2 notes, discordant phrase, her body flashed Arabian blaze. How did she get here? Hackensack. She went back, way back. Or was it Hoboken, north of the 38th parallel? Smelled of falafel, garlic, no real band, just sax and drums, sounded like the Philharmonic. She circled the spotlight, tiger burning bright, slowly stripped, but didn't. First the gloves, rolled nylons, rolled them back, way back. Must be Hackensack. Whistle, sweat, grease, fan spun, still spun backwards. Tonkinese girl took his wallet, his coat. Winking, chewing Hawaiian gum, Samoan girl took his eyes, his tongue. The band or no band was heating up. Sax and drums took off, spun with fan, forward, backward, everywhere, nowhere. She curled, whirled, swaggered. Guy in the 5th row sneezed. She didn't notice. Climbed the moon. All she saw was shish kebab, sand dune. Smell of garlic, burned rubber, fuel oil, bone, blubber. Swung her hips from Kabul to Kirkuk. Guy in 8th row geared, lunged, breached security, hesitated, sneezed, disappeared. She didn't notice. Thighs wired, gunpowder in her panties. This was an adult world. Any mistakes were those made by a professional. Now, this is called extraordinary rendition, and this is what the CIA was doing, bringing people to black sites. This was written back in 2011. Now, it's a song, a lot of songs. The first half of the poem is what it is not, and the second half is what it is. Arbeit macht frei was the sign that people saw going into Auschwitz. It means work makes freedom. Yeah. Extraordinary rendition. This is not Willkommen, Bienvenue. This is not Come to the Cabaret. This is not The Hills Are Alive with the Sound of Muzak. This is not My Face, Your Face, Our Space. NASCAR, My Scar, Spider-Man, Born in the U.S. of I, The Sycophantic Clock, Bach's Third Brandyburger, Ode to Freud, My Country, Fizz of Thee, and Crown Thy Snood, God Trust Ye, Randy Gentleman, Bark the Feral Angels Ping, Pilot Night, Holy Light. This is Black Body Swaying. This is Crows to Suck. This is Blackface. This is No Face. Graffiti of the Flesh. Lesson you would never forget. Eine kleine Kristallnacht. A Jew in a newspaper hat. Arbeit macht frei. Hurry up, Strauss. Hurry up, strip, house. To the barber. You. Fire. I see fire. Yiskadal, the Yiskadar, Shmei Chaba. There's 2 more poems. This is for Farrah Ghana, who died on camera on Staten Island July 17th, 2014. For Farrah Ghana. There once was a singing blackbird. There once was a singing blackbird. The blackbird sings no more. He wove his cord to the rising moon. The blackbird sang to the ashen dune. A snowman, an owl, a bird of prey clutched the throat of the singing bird. A dissonant chord veiled the sun. The moon descended without a word. The blinking stars wove a winding sheet of sylvan reed. The sun turned black. A child bent his knee saying grace. A ragman turned his bending sack. The whale stopped singing. The owl froze. The blackbird dropped silken chain of sound. The owl screeched, the moon turned green. The west wind sighed a wreath of sound. The blackbird sighed a wreath of sound. Clouds dispersed, the world turned round. The blackbird whispered, I cannot breathe. The blackbird wove a sylvan reed. The blackbird sings no more. And finally, this is a poem about Clayton Lockett, who was a victim of a botched execution in Oklahoma in April of 2014. The lethal cocktail wasn't right. It took about an hour for Clayton to die. And actually on January 15th, just a couple of days ago, they performed their first execution since that time. They seem to think they got the right lethal cocktail. Charles Warner is the name of the man. He died at 7:38 in the morning of July 15th in Oklahoma. The ballad of the execution of Clayton Lockett. The authorities strapped him to the gurney in Execution Chamber Hall in Excelsior, Oklahoma. They inserted an IV tube into his femoral artery and pumped a lethal cocktail into his femoral vein. And then the authorities said he was unconscious, but Clayton Lockett started kicking, and Clayton Lockett was twitching, then groaning on the gurney in Execution Chamber Hall. So said the witnesses in the hall. Some witnesses saw Clayton rise, some witnesses saw him fall. Some say he cried out, "My body is burning." Some say he cried out, "The Son of Man." Some saw him move his lips, but they heard nothing at all. Some say they saw the world turning on a strand, turning like a strand of finger past the Isle of Man. Some said they saw a woman in white arrive, the woman that Clayton had shot and buried in ground alive. Some said she held a crucifix and a shaft of light above his head. Some said they heard her murmur, "The owl must be fed." Where was the minister to put a wafer on his tongue? Where were the beetles, the flies circling the dung? Where were the strings winding to taut pitch strung? Why did the choir move their lips, but no melodies were sung? Why were hunched backs' bodies inching toward Bethlehem, slouching toward a crumb? Why was the dial pointing to zero? Why were the sparrows struck dumb? Where was the choir of glass? Where was the Lord of Flies? They had all been invited to call to witness the death of Clayton Lockett on the gurney in Chamber Hall. Thank you. Oh, thank you. Thanks.
Soulful, very soulful.
Amazing.